Hello everyone! It is officially fall here. It's getting super beautiful. We don't have a lot of deciduous trees here. Like, we've got quite a few, but we're an evergreen state. So we've got lots of conifers, but the little bits we're seeing of the beautiful yellows and reds are just absolutely gorgeous. It's so pretty out. I went for walks through the crunchy leaves, and I just got really inspired by fall to draw this piece. And also, I have friends and family that have been going to pumpkin patches, and I'm kind of jealous. I kind of want to go to a pumpkin patch, even though they're kind of smelly. But anyway, I wanted to paint a cute little ghost kitty for the spooky season on this pumpkin, and I wanted to try a whole bunch of different mixed media because I recently got the Arrtx acrylic markers, and I just wanted to start trying them with other things. But as you can see, I did start with pencil as usual. I didn't record the entire process, or rather I didn't show the entire process here because I really love sketching, but I feel like if I showed the entire sketching process in every video, it could get a little boring. But we're almost done here, and I'll be throwing some colors on. But I guess I could talk a little bit about the sketching that I do. This was a really random piece, and I just went in super loosely. I usually start with some basic overall shapes like the circles I'm using, and then I just kind of sketch loosely and intuitively, and I guess what would be considered inspired by contour sketching. Like, I just oftentimes look at what I see on the screen, like my references. I'll have a few of them, and I will sketch without looking at my paper even sometimes. And I like to also sketch in the negative space a lot. Although right here we're not really on that part because I'm just kind of trying to figure out where bones and stuff would go to be visible inside this ghostly kitty. Did anything I say actually just make sense? I'm not quite sure. It's hard to describe like your own personal way of sketching once you figure it out and get into your groove. But that's okay because we're almost done with the sketch here anyways. I actually really wanted to make this a super aesthetic and nice sounding kind of video. Not like an ASMR, because ASMR videos, I'm not big on ASMR videos. I don't mind videos that are just sound, except that I will get bored with them often, which is why I always narrate. But I wanted there to be like the sounds of the sketching and the sketchbook and whatnot in the background. However, I could hear myself breathing, sometimes kind of heavily, not like a heavy mouth breathing, but like sometimes I was right next to the microphone. And for me personally, watching it back, it was kind of soothing a little bit because I'm like, oh, it's like I'm like sleeping or something. Apparently it was a very calming process, but yeah, I did cut a bunch of that out where you could clearly hear me breathing. It's 10 in the morning here in Washington, and I just had to pause the video recording for a noisy truck and a plane and my cat scratching in the box and the furnace coming on. So it's kind of rough recording in the mornings. I would prefer to record voiceover at like 6 in the morning or something, but I was sleeping. Honestly, I'm just proud of myself for getting another video edited within like the week. I'm actually really happy about it. I love making videos. I think they're so fun. I love that art process, and I love the recording, like the editing process and stuff as well. The voiceover can sometimes be a little frustrating. I don't mind talking. I don't mind doing the voiceover or talking while I'm drawing, but all of the other noises can be a little frustrating. Okay, so back to the art. I went in with a base of alcohol markers. That was pretty much the thing I wanted to test here. Is I'm going to use a few other mediums, but I wanted to test my paint markers on top of the alcohol markers as a base. And so I went in with a nice blue-green color for the ghost kitty. Gotta have that like ghostly green quality. It kind of makes me think of like Neopets. If anybody had a Neopets account, let me know what your Neopets were down in the comments. I had a Halloween Bori, and I had a Sketch Zweetok, and I guess I should say I still have them. I finally got a Poogle last year. I had been meaning to get a Poogle for so long. I had kept my last space open so that I could get a Poogle, and I finally got one. Not that I really play at all, but I have one now. Oh my gosh, I went through all of that with the markers talking about Neopets. That's okay. You saw what colors I was using. I was going with some accent colors here and there, but pretty much like the greens and like the oranges and stuff for the pumpkin. I went with a purpley kind of color for the leaves. They'll eventually be green. Okay, I'm finally going in with my Arrtx paint markers on top, and I mean, it's just this kind of beige color for the skeleton at the moment. Okay, here I am going in with a green color to really, I guess, show that there's some volume to the ghost kitty. Like, it's not just skeleton with like a flat marker blue tone. We've still got the fur there, right? It's just ghostly fur. And I quite enjoyed using the paint markers on top of the alcohol markers. It worked perfectly good. Some of them are a little more transparent than others, so I want to say some of them benefited quite a bit more from having the marker base. And I would say that I maybe overdid it with the paint markers on this piece, because I was going for a mixed media bit, but I kind of covered up most of the marker base. But I guess that's just kind of how it goes with underpaintings. Here you can see that I am actually going to make the leaves green. I just wanted some of this other color to pop through. And I didn't really like the stem. I'm still not a huge fan of the stems, okay? Pumpkin stems are weird. I need to practice them or something, but I like the way it turned out. I'm going for a bit of a, not abstract, but I'm definitely not going for realism. I'm just kind of going for, what's the word, where it's just like a nice vibrant piece of artwork stuck on the page, almost like a sticker set pop art. I'm not quite sure. I don't know the term, but like I wasn't going for an actual background here, right? Like I wasn't fading it out or anything. I wanted it to have definitive edges. And I'm going back in, mixing a lot, being really messy. I just wanted to do a really loose painting, and that I could maybe then bring all together in the end. And at this point, I was very, very happy with how the kitty was turning out. I loved the kitty, but I was losing a little bit with the background. I just wasn't super happy about it, but I was pushing forward. I think it's just that I put so many layers down, and that's kind of how I work. I get a lot of ugly phase in my art where I'm like, oh my gosh, where is this going? But I pretty much, I know that, and I always try and push through the ugly phase unless there is something fundamentally wrong with the sketch. Like unless I turn the page up and I'm like, oh no, the proportions or whatever are way wrong and it would be really hard to fix. But I just kept going over it and going over it and going over it. This is what I'm talking about, where you can't really see the marker underneath, because I went over it so much, but it needed that. And in the end, I actually really like it, and I think it turned out quite nice. If I was going to do this again, I would maybe have more of a plan. I feel like these markers lend themselves to being messy and less planned out like this, but it was maybe a little bit of a waste of ink to use the marker first then, if I know that I'm going to be making a messy, chaotic kind of thing. But I just wanted to throw a bunch of stuff down. As you can see, I'm trying out using a bunch of colors, pinks and purples, and I wanted to incorporate the oranges of the pumpkin throughout the piece so that there's a bit of hints at bounce lighting. I tried to make sure it was in specific places, like not exactly 100% bounce lighting. Like I said, it was kind of a chaotic process, but like I'll have the orange more towards the center of the leaves, and I'll have the purple kind of be in shadows and the pink kind of like rim lighting sort of thing. But I was being loose with it, and I wanted to be a little bit more detailed with the kitty itself. So I go in several times and layer some of my various paint marker colors to really try and show that this is a sort of ethereal, spectral kitty. I tried to show some of the pumpkin through the tail, although a little bit of that gets covered up later. I do also go in with the kitty cat's colors, and I work them throughout the page a little bit as well. They're fairly prominent in the leaves, but I wanted them in the pumpkin itself a little also, just again like sort of bounce light-esque or maybe a little bit of glow. And here I am just working more of the orange pumpkin colors into the kitty. I really think that everyone should try sometimes pushing their art through what they consider the ugly phase. But that being said, I also feel like art is different for everyone, you know, and what works for me might not work for other people. And the most important thing is not to lose your spark, right? If you don't like doing art a certain way, then you don't have to. I would always encourage being experimental, going outside of your comfort zone, and really pushing your art. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like any of that matters if you lose your spark for creating in the first place, right? And art is such a personal thing, and I don't like it when people seem to think that there's one like penultimate way of being an artist. I got kind of off topic there. This piece right here too, this was like a really random, such a random piece. I just randomly inspired and thought, I want to do this, and I think I filmed it entirely on my phone because I was not going to get a whole setup to film it when I was just inspired in the moment. Sometimes you just have to grab the moment that you're inspired, and that's what I did here. I just set up my phone off to the side. If anyone is interested, I have a Moft, M-O-F-T case for my phone that really helps me out with doing recordings like this. Obviously not inspired. Inspired? Obviously not sponsored. Where did the word inspired come from? Maybe because I was talking about being inspired. Anyway, obviously not sponsored, but the Moft case is really cool. It's like a magnetic case with a bunch of different configurations for being able to set it up and record. It is a little difficult to use for me in like the horizontal format of YouTube and stuff. I think it's probably meant more for things like Instagram and TikTok, I would imagine, but it's still helpful. So I went in with some real dark purple shadowy colors because I wanted to make the cat pop just a little bit more, and because I've got these dark shadowed leaves, I made them like very much just silhouetted in the back because I didn't want to take away from the cat. I kind of wanted the cat to pop out on them. But the shadows were a little bit dark on the cat, so I just went over again. That's what I love about these paint markers, is the ones that are semi-transparent, and I can just go over the top and make the exact amount of transparency that I want. It'll get a little annoying eventually if I have to layer up a lot, but it's not bad. Another aspect of the mixed media is I took this, it might look like ink, but it's actually acrylic paint that is really, really watered down that I keep for staining wood. That's, I'm working on staining my desk, but I have not gotten very far. And so I worked that onto the page as well. I figured that since it is not ink, it is paint, it should dry and stick really well to the other acrylics, and I like the look it gave. It was kind of like being able to use watercolor on top. Sorry about the truck noises. I just had to wait for another one to go by because there's a bunch of really big noisy trucks around here. My neighbor has this huge like diesel truck that she will turn on and just let run for way more than is necessary. And believe me, I know that you have to warm up diesel trucks, but way more than is necessary. I'm just saying. My favorite part of using this paint was all these little speckles. Look at the way they just like made this watercolory textured effect. I thought that turned out really cool. It worked out great for the spooky pumpkin and stuff. I didn't even realize that the pumpkin and the leaves needed a texture, right? I didn't realize that they needed that grittiness until that dried, and I was like, oh, that looks so good. Maybe next time I would go in with a few different colors of it as well. But at the moment, I just did the blue. I used a little bit of gel pen. It doesn't really want to go on very well at all, but at least we've got the hint of stickers there. Stickers? Whiskers. I cannot talk today, guys. I'm just going to leave this in, though. Like, I don't feel like cutting that and re-saying it. It's early, okay? I also did a little bit of gel pen on the leaves, and that turned out fine. Those moon gel pens, they're called moon something, and they work out pretty good. Right, and I went in with glow-in-the-dark paint. So this is just a little preview of where it was at the moment. I colored over the skeleton with this cheap glow-in-the-dark paint from Walmart, and I will show what that looks like at the very end. I thought it was a pretty cool effect. I can't believe we're kind of wrapping up already. I used this multicolored pencil just to sort of give an outline, but it didn't really want to draw on top of the acrylic very well, so I didn't use it a lot. I'm not a huge fan of colored pencil texture on top of paints and stuff, but it gave this like interesting multicolor effect that I do like. I just wish it was a little smoother, right? I wish I could get that in a pen that actually worked, because those gel pens don't. Oh wow, we're really coming up on the end. By the way, this will be a sticker in my Etsy and my Ko-fi shop. And let me know, you guys, how fall is doing. There's the glow effect. And I hope everyone is having a wonderful autumn season, and thanks for stopping by.